Hi friends, it's Mari for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be creating this card that you can see here on the screen with lots of texture and layers today. I'm going to be using the brand new Honey Dipper stencil from Honeybee. This is such a cool stencil and you can just see it has all of those Honey Dipper images on it through the stencil. I'm also going to be using one of the Bitty Buzzword dies from the brand new Bitty Buzzword die set. I'm going to start off here by putting some sticky grid Sizzix paper down on my mat, and I'm going to put my Ranger watercolor paper over that so that it stays put when I use the Honey Dipper stencil. I'm going to tape my stencil down to my mat as well, and you'll just see me doing that quickly here. And I'm just trying to keep everything nice and straight with my grid lines on my grid mat here, because this is a fairly linear design. In a way, I didn't want to get this on here in any way other than straight. So now you can just see I've taken my Nuvo spatula and I'm going to run some texture paste through the stencil. I'm trying to create a pattern that's sort of like a half circle over on the left side of my paper, leaving some complete white space over on the right side area. And I'm going to add some color to the area with the texture paste here once it's all dry. So I'm going to just go ahead and finish up this process. I will take the stencil and the spatula and wash them up right away so that that texture paste doesn't dry on the stencil for sure. The nice thing about the Nuvo spatula is it is silicone and it will be just really super easy to clean. But you can see the nice texture that that stencil leaves on the Ranger watercolor paper. And I am going to be using quite a bit of water and medium on here, so I wanted to just make sure that I used a watercolor paper, and it just makes life a little bit easier when your paper can take some water in that way. Now I am going to just put a little bit of water with my distress spritzer on to the area with the stenciling. And here you can just see I'm taking some Distress Oxide fossilized amber and I'm adding that color to the panel. I'll continue to add some water onto the panel as well. And here you can just see I'll take my finger and spread the area of the color out over the stenciled area. So I just want that color to be where I have that texture paste, and I'll just continue to add water and more of that fossilized amber Distress Oxide spray to the area with the Honey Dipper stenciling. And it's just going to create this really pretty yellow background over top of that stenciling, just going to look really nice. And here you could just see I'm continuing just to add a little bit more color just with the kind of like the straw of the applicator, so that I can control how much color is going on there. And then I'll just continue to add more water as I need to and let that just kind of drip down the stenciling. And it's just going to create a really cool effect when it's all finished. But I really like this color. I think it's beautiful. And I am going to be using one of the Team Tie-Dye 6x6 papers for my project today, which really was the inspiration for my color scheme. Now I am going to take my heat tool and speed up the drying time here just by drying that a little bit here with that heat tool. And now you can just see I'm going to be using the Sweet Sunflowers stamp set. This is a set. The florals were designed by Emily Midget, and this is just a beautiful floral set. Now I am going to stamp this out with some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. This is a slow drying pigment ink. I'm going to stamp that out on some more of the Ranger watercolor paper. Really love how this is nice and crisp ink, and it will stamp out really nicely on this watercolor paper. So I'm going to stamp that out, and then I am going to do some heat embossing with these images. So I'm going to put some clear embossing powder over that inked up image. The nice thing about that ink is it's a slow drying ink so that your pigment or your embossing powder will stick to it. So this clear embossing powder then is just going to melt clear, and it's just going to give a nice crisp raised image with your stamping when it's all finished. So I'm just going to heat that up and melt it. And now you can see I've done that twice with another flower and also with all of the leaves from the Sweet Sunflower set. And now I'm going to go in with some of the Distress Oxide re-inker from that same fossilized amber color. And I'm going to water it down a little bit so that it's a little bit lighter, but I've also got a little pool of it on my plastic watercolor mat. This is an Art Impressions watercolor mat. And I'm just going to go in with some of the watered down or diluted color, and I'm also going to go where I want it to be darker with that straight color that's not diluted. So I've got kind of like a little pool of diluted and a little pool of undiluted so that I can vary the strength of the color on my flower. And the great thing about that heat embossing is it's created these little lines or wells so that it controls where the water can go, which is a super easy way to do some watercoloring. And I'm kind of trying to create a darker color at the base of the leaves towards the center of the flower, and then go a little bit lighter on the outside edges. And I will go in with paper towel and pick up some of the pigment as I go through to just dab it up and lighten it up a little bit, and just trying to control the color in that way. And just continue to add layers. I'll dry it, I'll add more layers and so on. And this is just really fun and relaxing. I love doing this. I think it's just a really fun way to add pigment. And definitely your Distress Oxide inks or your Distress inks, your re-inkers or your pads, you can definitely stamp down with your ink pad if you don't have the re-inkers or the spray. And you can dilute those with water as well once you've stamped the pigment out on a surface, and do the same process exactly as how I'm doing it here. So you can just see here, I will continue that same process here on the entire flower, and I will only show you coloring the one flower, the one bloom, because I do both of them in the exact same way. I'm using a smaller watercolor brush here. This is a silver brush. I'm just looking on my table here to see what number. I think it's a 2. Yep, it's a number 2 watercolor brush from Silver. But you wouldn't need a watercolor brush per se. It is nice to use a smaller brush for these smaller areas, but you could just use any small round brush that you have in your space. It doesn't have to be a true watercolor brush even, really. Just a round brush will work. So here you can just see I'm going in with that darker color to darken up the pigment closest to the center, and just, really trying to control the color as much as I can here, and painstakingly adding more, drying it, and adding more layers here as I go on with this process. So super fun. And like I said before, I just really enjoy this a lot. So have you tried this? Let me know in the comment section if you've tried your Distress inks or Distress Oxides as watercolor pigment. It does work super, super well, and it's a great way to get that watercolor look on your projects. Now for the leaves, I wanted to use some Salvage Patina, and I love this new color from Distress, from Ranger. Gorgeous. I'm going to do exactly the same thing here with the Salvage Patina. I'll have some that's got a little bit of watered down and some that's the full pigment. I'm going to put this on, and then I decide that I want it to be a little bit lighter, so I'll just add some water to it. And as you can just see here, I'll add the water in, and it dilutes it right on the leaf area. And I'm totally okay with some lines in the pigment as well where it dries. So I'm kind of going for that watercolor look for sure. So adding more water, then I'll spread that out and I'll dry this so that I will get sort of like a true watercolor look. I'll get a few blooms in there when it dries and that kind of thing, and that's totally fine with me. I love that look. So the leaves, once again, I'm only going to show you watercoloring just that one leaf, but I did do all 3 of those leaves in exactly the same way. The really great thing about this stamp set, the Sweet Sunflowers, is it does come obviously with the coordinating sets. You can purchase separately the coordinating dies and die cut all of these different pieces out, and that's exactly what I do for my project here. So here you'll just see me drying this. Like I said, I'll dry in between layers. I'll darken it up wherever I feel like I need it to be darkened, and those will be all finished. So I'm just going to go in with that undiluted Salvage Patina and add a little bit of that darker along the veins of the leaves and anywhere where I want it to be a little bit darker, like at the base of the leaf. And yeah, just super fun technique. It is nice to work with a smaller brush, a finer brush for these small areas. Does work quite well. Now I do have my splat box on my desk here, as you can see, and I'm going to splatter some Dina Wakley white gloss spray on the leaves and on the blooms. And I will also add a little bit of gold Heidi Swapp Color Shine. You could use any watered down gold medium. You could use a gold watercolor, whatever you have in your space if you want to add some shimmery gold, and splatter that on too as well. Here's where that gold color shine's going on. And I just really love that. It just adds a little bit of really pretty sparkle to the project. And that's going to finish off the splattering. And now you'll just see that those are all dry. And I'm going to use the coordinating die set to die cut out all of these different pieces. And once that is finished, I'll have 5 beautiful embellishments for my card front to do my layering. So here you can just see them all die cut out, how beautiful they are. I'm going to hold these into the light here so that you can see the splatters that are on there and the dimension from the heat embossing. Really nice. Now I want to do a little layer of teal around my white panel. This is some Gina K teal cardstock, and I'm going to trim that up just so that I have that tiny little teal border. And here you can see that team tie-dye paper, that patterned paper that I'm using here. I've just measured it so that it's going to leave just a nice little border around the teal cardstock. And there you can just see that I'm going to be able to pick up on the salvage patina and the fossilized amber from that pattern paper. Now I'm going to back my very top panel here with the texture paste on it with some foam adhesive, and that'll be the only piece on the front here so far that has dimensions. So the pattern paper and the teal cardstock are just flat on the card, and then this layer here is going to be popped up with that foam. So it's just going to give that focal area a nice little bit of dimension and pop. Now I'm going to just fuss around here with my 5 different embellishment pieces here. I am only going to put dimensional adhesive on that top sunflower. The other pieces are all going to be flat to the card front and adhered down with some liquid adhesive. But that top sunflower, I am going to pop up on some foam adhesive here just to give it a little more dimension. And I love how that looks. And the layers on this front card front are really pretty with the texture paste and the dimension in the florals with the heat embossing and the splattering, and now a little bit of dimension on that one floral. Now this is the Bitty Buzzword Thanks. Love these Bitty Buzzwords. They're so good. And all of the sentiments that are in here are just like the best sentiments for all kinds of different cards. Love it. And so I've cut that from some teal cardstock and some white. So the back layer is the white cardstock, obviously, and the thanks is in the teal. That's the same teal cardstock I used for my mat on my card. And here I'm just kind of showing you different areas where the sentiment could go. It would have looked fine there. Totally good there. All these different areas are possibilities for where the sentiment could go for sure. I decided to put it more over to the right, but it would have looked good in either of those other 2 areas as well. Now I'm going to add a little bit of the Honeybee liquid adhesive to the back of that scripty word thanks, and I will adhere that to the backing of for the sentiment. And of course I am going to pop this up on a little bit of foam adhesive as well so that it does have some dimension also, and I will put that into the place that I want it on the front of my card here. So like working with my tweezers with this sort of a thing so that when I go to place this onto my card front, I do have a little bit more precision placement with that with those tweezers. So there you can see where I decided on the sentiment. And now I'm going to take the Farm Fresh Holiday Gem stickers. These have some really nice gold tones, and I did want to use some of these gold gem stickers. I love the gem stickers because they do look like little gems. They've got the facets on them that make them really super sparkly, and they have the sticky on them already, so they're super easy to adhere. Just going to use my craft pick to take those off of the paper. And I thought at first that I was just going to put 3 on here, and I did like it with just 3, but I felt like it needed a little bit more, so I am going to add 2 more, 1 to each of those upper areas, and then we'll end up with 5 gem stickers in total. I think I thought maybe I might use a white one. I tried that, but I didn't like it. I didn't think that it showed up as much as it needed to on the fossilized amber. And so here you can just see I'm going to use more of those gold and just work on where I want to place those on the card. I'll fuss with that a little bit, move the placement around so that they kind of look a little bit more, hopefully, natural. And I love that. I love that little bit of extra sparkle and shine and bling with those gems. So really love how this card looks. Now I wanted to show you one more thing here. Honeybee Stamps in their shop sells these little envelopes, the plastic envelopes where you can store your cards. And I feel like we're always looking for these, right? Well, Honeybee has those in the shop. And not only do they have them in the A2 size and the 5x7 card size, they also have the slimline size. I saw somewhere someone was looking for these the other day, and I just forgot where it was that I saw that thread, but I just wanted to show you that you can purchase these in the Honeybee shop. And I feel like the slimline ones might be a little bit difficult to find, so I just wanted to let you know that those are available. My card here is more of a 5x7 size than it is an A2 size. It's a little bit larger. It fits nicely into the 5x7 plastic sleeve. Love that. And now this is going to go into my card storage. I do have a storage box in my space where I have all of my cards categorized into what type of card they are. And I like to keep them in these sleeves to protect them, just because there's always lots of little bits on the card fronts and that sort of thing that would get caught on other cards if they're not protected properly. So I do really like to store them in these pockets so that if I give them as gifts or just to protect them until I use them. So love that. And I also just wanted to show you this slimline. Now I have linked up to these sleeves in the description box below, as well as all of the other products I've used today. I hope you enjoyed my process. I really enjoyed sharing this with you today. I hope that you stay well. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope to see you next Friday for another project. Bye-bye.